Welcome to Miami Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff, and on today's show, we have two main topics. Could a Tyreek Hill trade be looming in the offseason? Plus, should the Dolphins target Trey Smith as a top priority in NFL free agency during the 2025 NFL offseason? But before that, I need your guys' help. I need you guys to subscribe to the channel. We're putting out daily content here at Dolphins Today. We're on the road to 66,000 subscribers. Hit that sub button for daily Dolphins updates, news, and rumors. There's no better channel on YouTube that will have you covered on your needs surrounding the Miami Dolphins. All right, let's get into Tyreek Hill because many people are curious if Tyreek Hill could be a trade candidate for the Dolphins this offseason. It was not suggested by anyone out there. There is no actual rumors, but it's something that I wanted to talk about because as we think about the future of this organization, there are many holes on this roster: offensive line, safeties, linebackers, interior defensive line. To be clear, I don't know if all of those issues can be addressed if you are paying Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle a combined $60 million on your cap room a year. I love the two. They're both elite, but allotting $60 million of your cap space to two wide receivers just might not be sustainable for winning football. So, since Waddle's younger and just signed his extension, if one were to go, it would probably be Tyreek Hill. But the financials make it a little bit difficult. Barry Jackson actually had a note on a Tyreek Hill trade earlier this season before the deadline, saying there's a $27.7 million cap hit in 2025 if Tyreek Hill's on the team. But there's an even bigger cap hit for Miami, $28.3 million, if he's traded after the season but before June 1st. It's $12.7 million in cap hit for the Dolphins if he's traded after June 1st. But what's more, his $27.7 million salary for 2025 is fully guaranteed. So what does that tell you? To me, it's likely that he is going to be staying in Miami to at least begin the 2025 season. Because you saw the numbers. The Dolphins don't save any money if they trade Tyreek Hill before June 1st. So what would be the point of doing that other than acquiring a draft pick to use in the 25 draft in April? But I don't see whoever the front office is doing that. If you are trading Tyreek Hill, you are doing it to get draft capital, but also free up some money. Well, the only time you're doing that is if you do a post-June 1st trade. But you obviously aren't going to be able to use any of that cap space that you just freed up to sign free agents because, well, free agents sign in March. And Tyreek Hill is still having a good season, even though it's a down year for his standards. He's on pace to reach 1,000 yards for another season. He just needs 195 in the next 3 games. It's only 67 catches and 5 touchdowns. It's been a little bit of a disappointing year, but you also have to take into consideration that Tua Tagovailoa missed 4 games and had to deal with Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley. Plus, the explosiveness just hasn't been there. Over the past 2 seasons, he's averaging 14, 15 yards per catch. This year, it's only 12. It's still a down year for Tyreek, but he's still playing at a wide receiver 1 level. But is he playing at a level that is warranted his $30 million plus cap hit in what is next year, or 2 years from now, going to be $51 million? Now, it's not going to happen to where he plays $51 million. That would be changed and restructured. But either way, it's a high cap hit. But let me ask you this first. Chime in. It's today's pinned comments. You get hit with a YouTube ad break. Scroll down, let it play, and answer today's question. Would you think about trading Tyreek Hill in the offseason? Just think about it. Not doing it, just ponder the idea. Be open to it. Type Y if yes or type N for no. Well, I'm making the video, so you'd have to assume I'm at least open to it on a degree. And I honestly would think about it. And it's not just the cap space. It's not just the down season is having this year statistically, but there's other factors that come into play here. And when you look at advanced metrics, Tyreek Hill may be losing a step. He's 30 years old. He'll be 31 by the time of next season. He's getting to that age where he might be losing his top-end speed. Now, is he still one of the top 5 fastest wide receivers in football? Absolutely. But is he the clear-cut number 1 anymore? I'm not sure, and it's reflected in his statistics in terms of separation. In 2023, there was no better wide receiver in terms of creating separation, in my opinion, against man coverage. You see it. He was 17th in a complete target separation. He was third in total route wins, first in route win rate, and then 15th in win rate on routes versus man coverage. Well, those numbers have taken a slight regression in 2024. And these numbers, I wanted to use them and look deeper into them because this is separate of quarterback play. This is how he does against man coverage. His target separation numbers have gone down, but it actually still ranks about the same in terms of NFL wide receivers. His total route wins through 15 weeks is 21st in football, so quite a drop back. The route win rate is the biggest jump down, 20% lower, and is now 26th in football after being first last season. And then his win rate versus man coverage has went down 7% and 7 spots in the National Football League. So his numbers are going down slightly if you look at it from an advanced perspective. And maybe we should mellow out and take a chill pill and just relax. Shout out to Mellow Seltzer. If you have any questions on Mellow, hit me up on social media at Nic_Rohloff on Twitter. One of my new favorite drinks, and I've been drinking it for a while now. But either way, let's get back to the video here because Tua Tagovailoa did miss 4 games. And I understand that the statistics where he doesn't have 1,000 yards yet, he just has over 800, is down because of those 4 missed games. But when you look at those advanced numbers of his route win rate percentage, his numbers against man coverage, his separations, that's concerning. And I think you saw it a little bit against the Texans on Sunday. Yes, he was going up against one of the top 5, top 7 corners in football, an absolute young stud in Derek Stingley Jr. But there was a couple gotta-have-it plays where they just said, you know what, F it. We're going to go man coverage against Tyreek Hill. And Stingley locked him up. And you saw it on the final play of the game offensively for Miami. Was the ball slightly underthrown to Tua on that fade route or to Tyreek from Tua that ended in an interception? Yeah, it was underthrown. But Tyreek Hill also high-pointed it, caught the football, and on the way down to the ground, Stingley took it out of his hands for an interception, which ended the ball game. Would the Dolphins have won if Tyreek makes that catch? I'm not sure. Still would have been a long shot. But the point remains is that he's not winning against man coverage as often as he once was. And you saw it also on that out route where Tua threw the pick in the red zone. Was it a bad ball and Tua threw it on the inside shoulder rather than the outside shoulder? Yes, that's got to be on the outside. But there still wasn't separation there. Stingley was on him like white on rice. I'm concerned a little bit about Tyreek Hill's inability to separate as often as he once did. But there is an issue with trading Tyreek Hill. Because if you are trading Tyreek Hill, the point of doing that is to get draft picks and cap space for the offseason. But like I mentioned a little bit earlier when we looked at the numbers for 2025, the Dolphins would not be getting cap relief or draft capital to make a selection this offseason and sign free agents in this offseason class. And this free agency class is not very good, so maybe that's a thing that Chris Grier would be okay with, or whoever's calling the shots, and they would be fine recouping assets after June 1st and saving the $18-19 million against the cap by moving him after June 1st. But to me, if a Tyreek Hill trade happened at all, it would likely be during the season next year if the Dolphins are 500 or struggling once again and they move him before the NFL trade deadline. And when you think about what Miami may need going forward, they need a physical wide receiver. Like, I'm sick and tired of the small wide receiver types. And it's been a dominant force when you combine the Waddle and Tyreek Hill duo of speed. But if we're going to be honest, we only need one really speed type of guy. The ideal wide receiver room, in my opinion, is someone on the outside that can play inside as well and utilize their speed. That can be Jalen Waddle. A physical wide receiver, a physical X that can just win contested catch rates at a higher percentage and just be a guy that you can trust over the middle of field and in fade routes and in the red zone that you can go to on a consistent basis. And then that third wide receiver that can dominate in the slot consistently. Waddle can be a slot and an outside guy, but I don't think he could be an X. Like, I would like to see the Dolphins acquire a physical big-bodied wide receiver to be that X on the outside. And to me, if you traded Tyreek Hill, added someone like that with Waddle, and maybe you see what you have in Malik Washington, the slot wide receiver out of Virginia, the 6th-round rookie, well, maybe that's the formidable and more balanced wide receiver room that the Dolphins could benefit more from. It's just a food for thought here. And before we finish the conversation on Tyreek Hill, I did want to showcase this because if they traded Tyreek Hill, this is kind of where I think the package would be. Because Devontae Adams is in that same age range, about 32, 33, playing at the same type of a level as Tyreek Hill. So this is what a trade package would look like for Tyreek, in my opinion. Maybe it's higher. The Raiders received a conditional 3rd-round pick that can become a 2nd-round pick, but based off what has happened and what the conditions were, it looks like it will be a 3rd-round pick. I think Miami can expect something similar. Now, I do think it could be a conditional 2nd-round pick that becomes a 1st-round pick if he's traded in the offseason or at the middle of the season next year. I don't know if he can flat out go net you a 1st-round pick anymore with his contract and his age, but a conditional 2nd that could become a 1st, yeah, maybe that is something that the Dolphins could receive back. All right, to close out today's show, how about this? Can the Dolphins go out and sign Trey Smith, one of the top free agents in free agency this upcoming offseason? And he is not just one of the top free agents out there, according to other people, but he is the number 1 free agent, in my opinion. He is my number 1 target for the Miami Dolphins in NFL free agency if they went big name hunting, because he is an offensive guard that has been fantastic over his 4-year career for the Kansas City Chiefs. And what is the biggest need on the Miami Dolphins roster? Pretty clear. It's offensive guard. It really doesn't matter if it's left guard or right guard, if we're going to be honest. They just need to replace one of the guards because Liam Eichenberg is the 59th graded guard in football, and Robert Jones is 52. They both are horrible. They both ruin games for Miami. It's the reason why the Dolphins' run game is as bad as it is. It's 5th worst in football. They've been averaging 58.1 yards on the ground over the last 6 games, last in football in that stretch. It's because they can't run up the middle of the field. And you have decent pieces on your offensive line. You do. Like, you have Austin Jackson locked in for the next 2 seasons. You have Teron Armstead, or if he retires, you have Patrick Paul, who you drafted in this past draft in the 2nd round, to be that left tackle. And Aaron Brewer, who's in the 1st year of his 3-year contract with Miami, has actually been one of the best centers in all football. So you have a left tackle of the future, or Teron Armstead next year. You have your center, and you have your right tackle returning in Austin Jackson. So all you need to do is figure out how to strengthen the interior at left guard and right guard. In Liam Eichenberg and both Robert Jones, they are free agents to be. They cannot return to this football team. I promise you one thing. If the Dolphins re-sign Robert Jones or Liam Eichenberg, we will make a video on it. But I'm telling you this, that video will be filled with a lot of disgusting comments because those two have been atrocious. We just mentioned their PFF ranks. We mentioned their PFF grades. They've been abysmal this season. And you can blame a lot of the running issues, maybe on Mike McDaniel's scheme. You can blame it on Devon Achane being a smaller back and he can't run inside the tackles and gets gobbled up by the bigger defensive linemen. But I would be more likely to blame it on the fact that Liam Eichenberg and Robert Jones simply can't block. And boy, oh boy, would Trey Smith be a massive, massive upgrade over these two on the interior. Smith has been one of the best offensive guards in football ever since he entered the NFL. He has elite PFF ranks. He has elite PFF grades. This is his 4th season in the National Football League. He has been graded out in the 70s all 4 seasons of his career. He is a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker, which honestly isn't an issue for me because you see the grades there. He's still in the high 60s of pass blocking, but he's elite at the run blocking. And then you see the numbers on the right side of your screen. He ranks in the top 15 out of guards every single year. We just mentioned Liam Eichenberg is 59. Robert Jones is 52. Well, Trey Smith is 11, 11, 13, and 15. Like, he has been great. And he would have been a top pick in the draft in 2021, but there is a cause for concern health-wise because he was diagnosed with blood clots in his lungs and has not prohibited him from playing because he has played over 1,000 snaps every year of his career. Did it in 21, did it in 22, did it in 23, and as long as he doesn't get hurt before playing another 24 snaps this season, he will play another 1,000 snaps in 2024. So the blood clots in his lungs have not held him back to this point. It is a little bit of a cause for concern if you're giving him a big contract long term, but when you look at the numbers and you look at the need of the Miami Dolphins, it's hard not to try to argue that he needs to be someone the Dolphins target in NFL free agency. Are you with me? Would you sign Trey Smith to this roster? Type S for sign or type P for pass. Let me know if you want Trey Smith to be someone that the Dolphins target in April and March. Now, with talking about free agency for really the first time, it is important to mention what the Dolphins have at their disposal. Miami currently is projected to have about $4 million in cap space. But I expect them to have anywhere between $20 million and $40 million when we actually get to free agency in March. How is that possible? Well, maybe Teron Armstead retires. Maybe they restructure his contract if he comes back for another year. Maybe they restructure Tua Tagovailoa's contract, Tyreek Hill's contract, Bradley Chubb's contract, Jalen Ramsey's contract, in order to create more cap space for this season and kind of push the cap issues for the Dolphins a couple seasons down the line, which would free maybe a lot of cap space up and potentially get them the $40 million to sign Trey Smith. And if you did have to do that, and you did do that to sign Trey Smith, here is what the projected contract is for Smith right now. 5 years, $101.4 million. And that puts you out to what? $20.2, $20.4 million in annual average salary, which would just top Robert Hunt's 5-year, $100 million deal he got from the Carolina Panthers as he left Miami to go to Carolina this past free agency. So you would have let Robert Hunt walk for $20 million a year, but then signed a free agent the following season at a little bit of a higher price point. And you may be wondering, well, why would the Dolphins do that? You just saw them let that go last year. Well, I think that after seeing how bad Eichenberg and Robert Jones are, there is a chance that Chris Grier or whoever running this front office is like, yeah, that was a mistake. We should probably allocate some resources to the interior offensive line. And even though it would be expensive, I seriously would consider giving up $20 million on the cap to get Trey Smith into this building. Because if you do that, you could still have $15 million to play with potentially to sign cheaper free agents to improve your linebacker room, interior defensive line, safeties. But the key here is, no matter if you sign Trey Smith or not, if you want to turn this team around and be back in the postseason and build a better overall roster, you need to hit your draft picks. If you are not getting instant impact from your draft picks, you will not be able to build a winning and sustaining culture. Look at the Lions, look at the Bills, look at the Chiefs, look at the Ravens. The top teams in football, the 49ers, they all get instant impact from rookies, whether it's a first-round pick, a third-round pick, or hell, even a fifth-round pick. Go to organizations, find talent that fit their schemes, and draft them and have them play right away. You have not seen that in Miami. Chop Robinson has been sensational this year. That is one case. But the Dolphins need more productive players out of their other draft capital and draft picks they make. That's the only way this turns around. The free agency is nice. You can fill some gaps that way. But it all starts by making the right selections in the draft. So nothing's going to change unless that happens. All right, I'll do it for today's show because we had a long one here. Talked about Tyreek Hill, talked about Trey Smith. But listen, this is why you subscribe to the channel, because we're going to always talk about the rumors. We'll break down the news. We'll break down the action. And we'll be your number one spot for free agency, trade rumors, draft rumors when the offseason is here officially in a month or so. So make sure you are subscribed and lock in for best coverage on YouTube surrounding the Dolphins.